Scotty, get us started, please.
Yeah, Eric, I'm curious if are you able to turn your mind off of basketball like when you get these breaks or around the holidays at all?
Only while I'm in San Diego. Pretty
Like,
easy, pretty easy on the boardwalk and being at Don Bravo's to turn it off, but only then. As soon as, but I mean, even then, it's watching tape and trying to figure things out. So I would say a little bit, Scotty, in all seriousness. But the one place that my mind does get away a little bit is there because just so many friends and family and the beach. But other than that, no.
do you find that to be good for you? Because I know you probably go 90 to nothing, you know, 300 plus days out of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, and I think that it's been discussed with a lot of college coaches, just that there's really not any downtime to turn your mind off or to catch a breath. I mean, we do it as a family over July 4th, and then we do it, for 3 days over Christmas. But you have to consider, 3 days over Christmas is not much when you're flying to California, because there's travel day involved in those as well.
Last thing I've got, just 5 games this month. How have you and how have the guys handled it and kind of taken to some of the downtime between games?
Yeah, I mean, I think that once we get into a normal rhythm, which finals throws you off the rhythm. It wasn't that long ago where we did not have a Christmas break. I mean, when I played, we never went home for Christmas, and I know at Nevada, at least the first year or two, there was no Christmas break. You know, I think the guys have done great. I mean, we've been able to go 2-a-days. Prior to the last game, we've gone 2-a-days. Since we came back from our Christmas break, and it's allowed us to clean some things up offensively. It's allowed us to do prep. It's allowed us hopefully to see some of the holes that we have in areas that we have to have growth in.
Curtis?
Obviously Wilmington's had quite a bit of success on the road already. The win at Rupp stands out there. I guess what are some of the traits that you see in them that make them successful in those environments?
Well, one, they're a deep team. Two, they have a great star in number 13, White, who can really score, high volume free throw attempt player. They run him off Iverson hoops. They'll isolate him in a zipper play for him to drive the ball hard. They have 3-point shooting surrounding 13, White. Newby's a really good shooter, number 1. Jenkins, number 0, is an incredible shooter. Ross can make shots at the power forward spot. Hodge can make shots. Both of their backup bigs, both of them can make threes. And then they have a point guard in Phillips, who's a really, really steady, heady, smart, excellent mid-range shooter, good dribble driver, really good player inside of 17 feet. They know their roles. They play with a good pace offensively. Defensively, they'll deny a little bit at times. They have a little bit of a 3/4 court press that they'll do at times. They'll switch a lot defensively. We've had enough time to dissect many of their games. You mentioned they played well on the road. They got a great record. It's a team that I'm sure in their conference will be at the top of their conference. So all those, those are some of their characteristics. And interestingly enough, like, their one center, I mean, he played like 40 minutes on the season. He played 20 minutes against Kentucky and hit a big 3, that being number 23, and 30 is their normal backup center for and he did not play much against Kentucky, but in the other games, he's a 3-dimensional scorer who can score on the block, score facing up, and make threes. So, and then McGriff, 21, who starts at center, is an active player who rebounds, and then right around the 16-40 mark, they're going to sub 5 guys at a time, hockey line sub. against Kentucky. They did that hockey line sub again at the 12-minute mark. So it's a team that's very, very dangerous. It's a team that is very well coached. It's a team that understands their roles, and it's a team that has 2 stars surrounded by really, really good perimeter players. And it's a very, very old team. I mean, they got some veterans on this team that have played at multiple schools and played multiple years of college basketball.
And just curious, what have your impressions been so far of Keon on the defensive end of the floor? And then maybe what have you seen from him from that standpoint behind closed doors at practice?
Yeah, I mean, we hope that Keon can, he gives us bounce. He gives us a sense of urgency, a sense of energy, gives us speed. He changes the complexion of our tempo offensively, especially defensively. He can pick up in the backcourt. We've been a low volume steal team. Hopefully he can add to that. I think last year as a freshman at Washington, because they play zone, I don't think that, we are hopeful that playing man-to-man defense, he's going to be able to create more steals than what you would get opportunistically in a zone. But been very happy with him. I think offensively, he's a guy that's going to give us when the shot clock is winding down. He is another guy that's going to be able to get a shot for us when the shot clock's winding down. Obviously, T. Mark's been a guy that's been able to do that, and Battle's been able to do that. L at times has done it for us. Devo at times has done, and Keon is just he's another guy that off the bounce will be able to create shots for himself or others when a play breaks down, or when teams pressure or teams deny. I think he's going to give us an added dimension. Against some of these teams that have some defenses that try to take you out of your stuff. I mean, even Wilmington, at times they're going to switch 1 through 5, and you've got to be able to have guys that can play the game without structure. And Keon's certainly a guy that can play and thrive against non-structured situations late clock.
Jackson?
Coach, what have you seen when you went back on film from the 4-guard lineup? What kind of stood out from that second half lineup that made you guys so successful?
We played with pace. We played with energy. We got to loose balls quicker. Our post defense, actually, Devo Davis played as good a post defense as anybody we had. He was the one guy that fronted the post. He was the one guy that worked around to 3-quarter. Just the pace. I thought we shared the ball better. We had a sense of energy about our team as well. And then we become harder to guard when we do that as well.
How much are you with that lineup specifically? Is there a concern with rebounding maybe or do you think it's something that could be sustainable, moving forward, playing those 4 guards and a big together?
Yeah, I don't think, Jackson, that I've ever said we're rolling that lineup out. You're talking about our last game against a team that didn't have great size. So never one time have I said, hey, we're rolling with this 4-guard lineup. Here's who the 4 guard. We're still trying to figure out who we are, just as we have the last 4 years. We don't have a ton of continuity with returners, as do many teams across the country right now in all sports. And so what we do against Wilmington is not necessarily what we've done against Wilmington or Abilene Christian, or certainly not what we'll do against Auburn. So I think every game takes on its own identity. Every game you try to mix and match and try to figure out the way that we're going to defend Wilmington is not the way that we defended Abilene Christian. You want your core philosophies to be there. Whether we go, 4-guard lineup against teams that press, maybe that happens. Maybe a big's playing really well and you don't want to take him off the floor. I don't have a crystal ball on, but I do think that group in that particular game, Jackson, they played very, very well together.
Bob?
Eric, sorry, I was pressing the wrong thing there. Hey, I wanted to ask you about bench points.
I pressed the wrong thing a lot in a lot of games of late.
Okay, well, she'll get it figured out. Um, hey, obviously KB's played off the bench all year and really most of his career. T-Mark's played off the bench of late. I know bench points are a big deal to you. Just kind of wondering what your philosophy is on that, and like you say, lineups can change, but at least of late, your top two scorers have been playing off the bench. Kind of what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Bob. It's really comforting to look down the bench and be able to have a go-to score. I mean, we did it with JD Note a few years ago. You know what? If you just start your five scorers or however you want to word it, and then you get down in a game, how do you it puts you in a dilemma then. And so whether it's Philadelphia 76ers bringing Bobby Jones off the bench many years ago, or another Sixer team when Mark Averoni started and then came out of a game fairly quickly. I mean, I do think there's beauty, and because we're on the subject of Wilmington, of late, they bring in their leading scorer White off the bench. So, I mean, how we go moving forward, I would like one scorer that we can turn to give us a punch or some juice if we're struggling offensively. I don't know if that answers your question, Bob.
Of course, Frank Ramsey, he's kind of the godfather, sixth man, I guess, back in the 50s. I know you know that because you're a historian. But right now you kind of have a sixth and a seventh man, at least of late. I get T-Mark might be back in the lineup, but do you remember ever having that much firepower coming off the bench that you've had the last couple games?
Well, we've had better records than we have right now, so I don't know what you consider firepower. I mean,
two guys scoring 43 points off the bench, I'd call that firepower, and 62 points off the bench total, I'd call that firepower. Pretty good firepower.
Yeah, but we want it to correlate to our record. Look at our non-conferences. Not been as much firepower as I hope. Or we got to defend. Maybe maybe you're right, Bob. Maybe we got enough firepower off the bench, and defensively things got to change and get better. Because you're right. I mean, in all seriousness, those two guys scoring off the bench, those numbers are insane. Our bench plus minus has been great, especially of late. But having said that, we got to put everything together through 40 minutes. We got to figure out a way to generate more wins.
You bring up Wilmington. I was looking up where you guys rank. They actually are number one. They're averaging over 40 points. So it's obviously White, like you said. I think he had 27 off the bench at Kentucky and 27 their last game. Just what do you think about their bench?
Yeah, I mean, they like I've mentioned, I mean, we've studied their substitution patterns. Normally we don't study substitution patterns other than maybe a sixth or seventh man. But I mean, I've mentioned number 23, and I've dissected his minutes and the games that he played and the games that he hasn't played. I mean, that's their third string center when you just base it off minutes. So, I mean, if we're studying their third string center as well as their second string center and see the impact that they've had in different games, then obviously that shows you how deep. I haven't mentioned number 22, Mays, who comes off the bench as a backup point guard, and he played minutes against Kentucky, and he's a guy that can make three balls, especially when you look back in his career at his three. So yeah, this is the teamwork that's coming into Bud Walton on Saturday, uses their bench and is as deep as any team that we've played all year, and probably as deep as any team that we will play all season long, and uses their bench as effectively as any team that we've played all season, and certainly anybody that we will play. I don't know if I've seen an SEC team this year, and I have not studied them like we have an upcoming opponent, but they do hockey line sub 5 at a time, and they'll do it for sure. What they've done of late is at least at that 16.5 to 17.5 minute mark. That's coming at you. So, and then, like I said, they've done it again around the 12 or 13 minute mark in other games as well.
And then, I know upsets are happening every week, but when you saw that knowing you were playing Wilmington, and they want it rough. What went through your mind? What was your reaction to that? And is that something that you can really, use with your team to make sure you guys are at your best?
Well, I mean, all you got to do is look at Wilmington's record and that should, I mean, that lets you know how good they are. But we try to schedule teams that are really good. I mean, that's the object of what we do. We don't sit in the office in non-conferences and say, hey, how many wins can we get? Let's just schedule wins. I mean, you schedule people that you think can challenge you. You schedule people that you think are going to have good, like them beating Kentucky. It's not good for the SEC, but it's good for our strength of schedule. If they beat a Power 5 team, that's good for us that Wilmington has had success. So for us, we have to come ready to play. I know as a coaching staff, we have as much respect for Wilmington as any team that will play all season long, because they got a star player. They got a secondary star. They got great surrounding pieces. I mean, Todd Lee's, he played against their starting small forward, Harden Hayes, and knows his game really well from the Summit League. And I mean, they crash the offensive board. They do a lot of things really, really well.
Yeah, one more. How would the Christmas night practice go? And then how have the 2-a-day practices gone? And when you don't play for 9 days, I know you're practicing hard, but do you worry about that, or do you feel like your practice has been pretty good?
No, we've been real. I mean, this team, Bob, has practiced really well. We have great shoot-arounds. We have great practices. We had a meeting early this morning as a staff, and this team practices as well as any team that we've had since we've been, at Arkansas. Maybe doesn't practice quite as good as our team at Nevada with Caleb and Cody Martin and Jordan Caroline. But as far as any Arkansas team that we've had, they practice and have shoot-arounds as well. We got to carry it over the game for 40 minutes and have a sustained amount of urgency for 40 minutes. And hopefully, we're progressing towards that point.
Well, tough one here. What was their favorite Christmas present that you got?
Mine was this watch that, Fitbit watch that tells me if I'm working hard when I'm on the treadmill in the weight room.
Did Danielle get you that, or who got you that?
Yeah, Danielle got me that. Yep.
All right, coach, gotta get down to practice. Thanks, coach.
Thanks.